In 1911, Douglas Mawson led an ambitious expedition deep into the uncharted wilderness of Antarctica. What began as a scientific mission soon spiraled into a nightmare. With two of his companions lost to the merciless conditions, Mawson was left to face the brutal elements alone. How did he survive where others perished? This is a gripping tale of survival in one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. Let's uncover the incredible fight for survival that Mawson endured. As always, listen closely, this knowledge could one day save a life. In December 1911, Douglas Mawson, a seasoned Australian geologist and explorer known for his resilience, set out to lead the Australasian Antarctic expedition. The mission was ambitious: to explore and map the uncharted territories of Antarctica, specifically the remote sector south of Australia, a place where no human had ventured before. Mawson's team of 31 men landed at Commonwealth Bay in January 1912 and established their base camp at Cape Denison. This area, which would later be recognized as the windiest place on Earth, was marked by relentless winds, often exceeding 80 miles per hour and sometimes reaching up to 200 miles per hour during fierce blizzards. The team was divided into smaller groups, each tasked with exploring different parts of the continent. Mawson, along with Lieutenant Belgrave Ninnis, a British Army officer, and Xavier Mers, a Swiss lawyer and skilled skier, formed the so-called Far Eastern Shore Party. Their mission was vital: to map unknown regions and gather scientific data on the continent. On November 10, 1912, the trio set off with 3 sledges, 16 huskies, and 1,720 pounds of supplies, confident in their plan and abilities. By December 13, they had covered roughly 300 miles from their base, navigating treacherous glaciers and avoiding hidden crevasses. However, the brutal Antarctic environment proved far more unforgiving than anticipated. Their progress slowed, and as they ventured deeper into the unknown, the true dangers of the mission began to emerge, setting the stage for one of the most harrowing survival stories in the history of exploration. As Mawson, Ninnis, and Mers pushed deeper into the Antarctic wilderness, the relentless environment began to take a toll on them. Each day was a grueling test of endurance, and the conditions grew more treacherous. Yet, driven by their mission, the trio pressed forward, unaware of the disaster that was about to unfold. On December 14, 1912, tragedy struck. Ninnis, who had been leading one of the sledges, suddenly vanished into a hidden crevasse, an enormous crack in the ice concealed by a thin layer of snow. Mawson and Mers rushed to the edge, desperately peering into the abyss below, but all they could see was darkness. Ninnis had disappeared without a trace. The loss was devastating. Along with Ninnis, the sledge carried most of their vital supplies, including the majority of their food, the main tent, and the 6 strongest dogs. In an instant, Mawson and Mers found themselves stranded in the heart of Antarctica with minimal provisions and little hope of rescue. Overwhelmed by shock and grief, they knew they had no choice but to turn back and attempt the perilous journey to base camp with what little they had left. The loss of Ninnis and their supplies meant that survival was now in serious jeopardy. With enough provisions to last about 10 days, it would take at least a month to return to the base. Every moment became a battle against time and the elements. The Antarctic wilderness, once a land of exploration and discovery, had now become a ruthless battleground for survival. Stranded more than 300 miles from their base camp at Cape Denison, Mawson and Mers faced a dire situation. Their supplies were critically low, and the unforgiving Antarctic environment showed no mercy. The journey back was fraught with danger, and survival seemed far from guaranteed. The extreme conditions took a severe toll on the men and their dogs. The intense cold, relentless winds, and lack of proper nutrition made survival increasingly difficult. The dogs, essential for pulling the sledges, began to weaken and die one by one, succumbing to the extreme conditions. With each death, Mawson and Mers were forced to make the grim decision to use the dogs' bodies as food to sustain themselves. This was an emotionally and physically taxing choice, but it was necessary for survival. The men were not just battling the elements but also the effects of malnutrition. Unbeknownst to them, consuming the dogs' livers rich in vitamin A led to hypervitaminosis A, a condition that caused peeling skin, hair loss, and severe physical weakness. Mers, in particular, suffered greatly. His health deteriorated rapidly, his body weakening as the toxic diet took its toll. Weak and delirious, he struggled to continue the journey, despite Mawson's best efforts to support him. On January 8, 1913, after weeks of relentless struggle, Mers succumbed to the brutal conditions and passed away. His death left Mawson completely alone, still over 100 miles from safety, with minimal supplies and no one to rely on but himself. The remaining journey would be the ultimate test of Mawson's will to survive. Now alone in the heart of Antarctica, Mawson faced an impossible challenge. The vast, icy wilderness stretched endlessly before him, offering no comfort, no respite, and no hope of immediate rescue. He was the sole survivor, more than 100 miles from base camp, with only the barest of supplies and an indomitable will to push forward. Physically, Mawson was in a dire state. The relentless cold and the effects of hypervitaminosis A had ravaged his body. His skin was peeling, his hair was falling out, and the soles of his feet had detached from the raw, blistered tissue underneath. Every step was agonizing. He had to tape his feet to his boots just to keep moving. Despite the unbearable pain, Mawson knew that stopping was not an option. If he wanted to survive, he had to push forward no matter the cost. The Antarctic landscape was as unforgiving as ever. Mawson faced constant blizzards that blinded him and sapped what little strength he had left. The terrain, with its hidden crevasses and sheer ice walls, made every step a gamble. But despite the overwhelming odds, Mawson never gave up. Driven by a primal instinct to survive, he pressed on. On January 17, 1913, Mawson faced another near-death experience when he fell into a crevasse. The fall was sudden and terrifying, but miraculously, his sledge became wedged on the edge, preventing him from plummeting to his death. Hanging by a thread, Mawson summoned every ounce of strength he had left to haul himself out of the icy abyss. Exhausted and battered, he continued the journey, knowing that he had narrowly escaped death once again. The days blurred together as Mawson trudged through the frozen wasteland. His body weakened with each passing hour. The isolation was crushing. The silence of the Antarctic landscape was broken only by the howling wind and the sound of his labored breathing. But Mawson never gave up. He navigated using the remnants of his maps and sheer instinct, inching ever closer to base camp. Finally, after weeks of relentless struggle, Mawson's perseverance was rewarded. On January 29, 1913, he reached a supply depot known as Aladdin's Cave, just a short distance from the main camp at Cape Denison. But his ordeal was far from over. A severe blizzard trapped him in the cave for several days, delaying his final push to safety. When the storm finally subsided, Mawson emerged from the cave and made the last painful journey to base camp. He arrived on February 8, 1913, only to see the rescue ship, Aurora, departing in the distance. He had missed it by just a few hours, forcing him and the remaining shore party to spend another winter in Antarctica. Mawson had survived one of the most harrowing ordeals in the history of polar exploration. Alone in the frozen wasteland, he endured unimaginable physical and mental challenges, but his unyielding determination carried him through. His survival became a testament to human endurance and resilience. When the Aurora returned in December 1913, Mawson and his team finally left Antarctica, celebrated as national heroes. Upon his return to Australia, his story and contributions to Antarctic exploration left an enduring legacy. The expedition's scientific findings, including valuable data on the continent's geology, meteorology, and wildlife, laid the groundwork for future Antarctic research and greatly expanded humanity's understanding of this remote region. The incredible survival story of Mawson has captivated countless people. Thanks for watching. If you want more deep dives into mysteries like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.